Good evening and welcome to the July 26th, 2021 Public Board Meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank. My name is Mike Hilliard. I'm the Executive Director of the organization. To members of the general public, we ask that you restrict the comments to 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I'll turn it over to Daniel Cantor, the Board Chair.
Hi, everyone. Busy month, big agenda, lots to do. I think we have to start with disclosing the location from which we are taking this meeting. So I am Daniel Cantor. I am at 142 Clinton Avenue in Kingston. Aneshka, can you go next?
Yes, I am Aneshka Shebek. I'm Vice Chair, and I'm at 259 Abeal Street in Kingston.
Bartek.
Bartek Stardine, 354 South Wall Street in Kingston.
Steve.
This is Steve Noble. We're at 101 Wilson Avenue, Kingston.
Karen.
Karen Rue at 70 Stefan Street in Kingston, Treasurer.
Ilana.
Ilana Berger, 146 Franklin Street in Kingston, maybe in the running for the person closest to one of our properties, but maybe not. But I think I'm like only 2 houses down, so I'm pretty close.
Bob.
Bob Dennison. I'm at 23 Sureco Shores Road in the beautiful metropolis of Piermont, New Hampshire. Population 600.
We'll say hello to everyone for us. Okay, I think that's taken care of. Mike,
Daniel, sorry, I joined late. I had another link that I was using.
You're fine. We're just doing our weird formalities at the beginning. But you're on the agenda. It'll probably take a couple minutes to get there. So hang tight. Okay, before we do anything else, can we review and adopt last month's meeting minutes?
I'll move that we adopt minutes from last month.
I'll second that.
All in favor of adopting June's board meeting minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so exciting month. All 3 of our homes continue to be under construction and are inching towards completion. So 64 Van Buren, I still anticipate will be the first. It's looking really nice. The 248 Main Street progress is really good. 174 Hasbrook is still a little bit behind, but catching up quickly. And that one's going to be the Kingston Design Show House. I can't remember if that contract had been signed already by last board meeting, but it has now. So we are officially going ahead with that. Marilyn and her associate Jennifer are here tonight to give us a brief presentation on the show house. Definitely ask questions and yeah, it'll be fun. So we're kind of at the beginning pre-development for 124 Franklin and 149 Greenkill. So both of those properties have kind of a basic scope of work. We did something we didn't do the first time that would have been very helpful, which is sort of have some kind of initial demo work done, just stuff that is very clearly going to go, and it's better to just get it out so we can see what we're working with. So that's been completed. That's good. Owen has been on top of getting the maintenance stuff going for all the other properties. We I think have successfully hired a landscaping cooperative outside or based out of Rosendale that is cooperatively owned, super cool group, very excited to work with us. So they're gonna take on kind of a big clean out of 63 German. If you guys have been to that property, it's super overgrown, but there's a really sweet house in there, and it's really quiet, nice little street, and the neighbors will be very happy that that's done. So that's all exciting news. We undertook a whole RFP process of finding an architecture firm for these next two houses in the pilot program and potentially continuing to work with them. We will see how that goes, but I think we had 11 qualified proposals and we narrowed down to 4. We conducted interviews, we called references, we did all that stuff and landed on KDA, which is Christina Dowersham Architecture out of Red Hook. Really cool group, super impressive portfolio of work, really, really excited to work with us. They are working on an hourly structure with a do not exceed and have significantly cut their rates across the board for our project specifically. So that's really cool. In the background of that, we're kind of feeling out how the design committee works in tandem with the architecture firm. So as chair of that committee, I sort of passed 149 Greenkill to one of the other committee members who is basically going to work with myself and Owen and the architects to take some of the load off of their plate in terms of just like speccing specific things like light fixtures and shower trim and all that stuff that can take a really long time to source. And if somebody's willing to do it, it's a nice cost savings that we don't have to be paying an architect hourly to find us a cute faucet. So that's exciting. But yeah, so we've had an initial meeting with them. We also have time on the schedule, I think next week. No, I'm out next week. Someday. This week, is it this week? It must be this week to go. We're going to walk through the houses again and then also look at the few properties that we sort of tabled as needing additional assessment before we were comfortable buying them. So those include 177 Murray, 168 Fairview, 29 Rogers. I think that's it in that category. So kind of trying to get from them whether or not these are insane projects to take on. I of course don't think so, but their opinion naturally should hold a little more weight. So that'll be interesting. I think that's for Wednesday or Thursday. The next Novo grant proposal is sort of underway. So they've asked us to sort of submit an initial thing August 15th. I think we're inclined to ask for a little bit more, like one more week, just because it would be good for the board to review the budget at the August board meeting before we submit it. But it's coming together well. They've continued to be excellent partners and, extremely helpful. And I think are, almost in contrast to last year, I think they have worked with us long enough now that they see that we're doing what we said we would. We're good for it. And I think are really very happy with our progress. So that's really good stuff. We are looking at the Legacy Cities grant for next year, which is a sort of complicated grant, but essentially encourages land banks to joint venture with developers who are BIPOC and WMBE firms. And essentially, we would likely be applying for like 5 rehabs, but it would, because it's a joint venture, it would be kind of more hands-off on our end, which I think is a good thing because it opens up capacity for us to potentially do other rehabs sort of similar to what we're doing now, or just focus on other pathways and stuff. So it seems very promising. The state seems, encouraging that we are eligible and should apply. And so that seems to be where things stand there. For additional properties that have been foreclosed on since the 2018 resolution, we're aware of, I think, 7 or 8 that are homes. There have been, much more vacant properties, but obviously we're interested in housing. And so there's grant funds with the city to run 40-year title searches on foreclosed properties, which is something that definitely took up a good bulk of time for us to do. So that's really exciting. We met with Kevin Corti, the Director of Housing Initiatives, and gave him sort of our list of, these are the properties that we know about and would like you to prioritize for these title searches so that we can move as efficiently as possible to do our due diligence. So those, as I understand, are underway and actually were supposed to be completed by now. So I'm not really sure the status, but we're not forgetting about it is the point. And then I wanted to mention, and I apologize if this is sort of out of turn, but I've spoken to both Aneshka and Karin, who may want to speak more to this, but they have very exciting things coming up on the agenda and do not have time or ability to be part of this board at the end of the year. So we are looking at least 2 vacancies on the board, which we will take as an exciting opportunity and not the loss that it is, even though we will be very sad to see them go. I don't know, do you guys want to talk about it at all? Sorry, this is awkward.
Do you want to go first, Aneshka?
I just wanted to express, my sadness about leaving, but because I'm going to be spending so much time in India next year, I don't think that it's fair to all of you to have me be half a board director. So, and I look forward to coming back when my travels are done and actually continuing possibly in an advisory position to the board and a community member, an active community member. But yeah, I've enjoyed it's been extremely educational for me and an incredible time for me. So I thank you all for making that possible.
And my family and I are moving out of state. We're moving to the other side of the states. But my husband got a job in California, and so, but we have a lot of advance notice. So we intend to move in December, mid-December. So we have really until, I think I would be extremely happy to and hope that you will allow me to continue until end of November, because I truly do love what we've been working on. And so it's been an absolute pleasure and extreme learning experience to be working with you all. And I echo Aneshka's thanks for making that possible.
Well, thank you both. This is, we're still several months out, so you're stuck with us for a while longer. But if anybody on the board knows folks who might be interested, we're gonna have some vacancies. So I think that process is that we put out a call in October, November.
Probably October.
October, November, then we basically interview and talk to people in December, and Steve will appoint them late December, early January, prior to our January annual meeting. I think I got that right. So we have a little bit of time. Okay, I think that's it for me. We don't seem to have any members of the public except for the next agenda item, which is Marilyn, who runs the Kingston Design Connection and oversees the Kingston Design Show House. And as you guys know, 174 Hasbrook will be the 4th annual Kingston Design Show House. And Marilyn has a brief presentation for us. So Marilyn.
Hi, I'm also on with Jennifer Salvamini, who's part of our strategy and development group. So this is the group that helps us to continue to add value to the various programs that we do every year. So I sent through a short presentation, which I'm not going to go through. You can kind of just take a look at that at your leisure. But I just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things. And first of all, we are just so excited to be doing this partnership with the Kingston City Land Bank. When I found out about the work that this organization was doing, I reached out to Daniel. I think it was a little over a year ago. And so Daniel and Michael and I, 2 years ago, Daniel and Michael and I have been talking about how we could partner, because it seemed just like a natural partnership. I started the Kingston Design Connection in 2018. I'm an interior designer, and I have a design build firm up here in the Hudson Valley. We've been building houses up here for about 15 years, and we do interiors work as well. And when I moved up here from Brooklyn, I think it was 2016, one of the things that struck me was that we have all these amazing creatives up here, but a lot of folks didn't know each other, and we're not collaborating and coming together, et cetera. And so I created the Kingston Design Show House as a mechanism to bring designers, makers, local vendors together, because what I found out was, in talking to all these folks, was that people were going to the city to find contractors and to buy furniture and lighting, because they didn't know who was up here. And so Kingston Design Connection is primarily an economic development tool, so that we keep the dollars in the community and that we also enhance all of our local creatives up here. And so, because that's our focus, it just seemed like a natural fit to partner with the Kingston City Land Bank and the work that you guys are doing in terms of community development and preservation. So so we're super excited. We recently put out a press release about our partnership, and we've been doing a lot of promotion on social media. The community has been very responsive. A lot of people have said that, oh yeah, what a natural partnership. I think that kind of is reading across the board for people. But a little bit about Kingston Design Connection. So I have some photos in the deck that you can look at. So this is an annual event that we do every year. And every year we engage anywhere between 100 to 200 participants. And that's everybody from interior designers, landscape designers, all sorts of contractors that you can think of, painters, wallpaper hangers, as well as local companies like Herzog's and Ines Supply and those guys. And basically they all come together and they take over a house and develop designs, execute the designs, and the majority of what's in the show house that you see is actually donated. So all the permanently installed material. So Benjamin Moore has been donating paint every year since the beginning. Landscaping, wallpaper, all that stuff is permanent, and the stuff that goes back at the end of the show house are the movable pieces. So we get a number of furniture and other kind of pieces that makers will lend us for the duration of the show house. So that's kind of the nitty gritty of how it works. And in terms of timeline, we are probably about a week or 2 weeks out before we announce the interior designers for 2021. Once that happens, then we're going to have a lot of content to start sharing with the press. Our national media sponsor this year is Aspire Design and Home, which is very exciting for us, because it's the first year that we've gotten a national international design magazine as a sponsor, which means a lot more eyeballs for all of our makers and designers and creative folks. Because of course, part of what, in addition to kind of local economic development, the other thing that of course the show house does every year is it promotes these designers on a broader sort of scale every year. And so we're very excited about that. So the show house will be open this year from October 8th through October 24th. So we're open 3 weeks in a row. We start Columbus Day weekend. Another very exciting thing we're doing this year is we're partnering with Field and Supply. For the interior designers, landscape designers, and those folks who participate, generally it's really more about the press, but the makers really want to be able to sell their work. And so this year we're very excited that Field and Supply is going to be doing a Shop the Show House page on their e-commerce site. It will go live the day that the show house opens, and it will be up through the end of the year. And it's just a great opportunity for a lot of our smaller makers who normally wouldn't be able to kind of invest and kind of be able to use that platform to be able to get their work seen and possibly make some sales. So I'll stop there. I don't know if Jennifer wants to add anything. And maybe Jennifer you might want to touch on kind of our work with the city this year and Ulster County and the Office of Economic Development.
Sure. I'm not sure if everyone can hear me okay because I'm calling in on my phone and I don't typically do that. Am I audible all right?
Your sound is great, at least for me.
Oh, okay. Okay, terrific. So yeah, so this year, because of our sort of extended partnership with Field and Supply and also O Positive, which you know, their opening dates also happen on the same weekend every year prior, except for last year, because really there wasn't any in-person events, although we had a show house, but O Positive, I think, just did storefronts, and Field and Supply remained just as a web presence last year. But so this is sort of the first year that everything's back up and running post-COVID. And so we expect the weekend to be a pretty big deal. And so the idea would be to basically cross-brand all of our promotional assets so that the weekend is really packaged as basically like a Hudson Valley design weekend, design and art weekend, basically. And, you know, so everything from printing maps to how to get from one location to the other. Obviously, all of our social media platforms will be cross-branded as well. There may or may not be the possibility of the Kingston Design Connection having a physical presence at Field and Supply. Hopefully bringing in press from the city, from the major houses all the way up here so that we can, you know, get them to all of the locations and to all of the events as one sort of concerted effort. So yeah, I mean, there was a few things that we were thinking of, hopefully some billboards on perhaps Route 28, which is sort of like the, you know, artery of the Catskills. Again, thinking about shuttle buses, whether it's just for the press or whether or not it becomes sort of like a public service that we offer for the weekend to bring people from location to location. We're still kind of exploring the breadth of the possibilities of what that sort of marketing package looks like. But, you know, we're really hoping to engage with the other two major events, but also to see how the city could possibly assist us in really promoting it to be sort of like an Ulster County event that people can look forward to this year, but also in years, you know, in the coming years, because this is something we plan on doing in perpetuity and hopefully ever expanding the sort of event offerings that we as an organization are doing.
Right. And the really exciting thing is that both Timothy Weedman at the Office of Economic Development as well as Tourism, they have both committed to providing some financial assistance to actually help us do that kind of countywide sort of marketing.
Yeah, and then, you know, to just speak to one other sort of example of how the Kingston Design Connection intends on continuing to sort of grow our presence within the city community. Just, was it a month ago or about 2 months ago, maybe now? I don't know.
On my birthday, June 12th.
Right. So just over a month ago, we collaborated with Herzog's and did sort of a Hudson Valley Design Day, which was intended to be a meet and greet for local makers and designers to give Herzog's Design Center a little promotional boost to, you know, introduce designers in the area to the services that they offer, while Herzog's sponsored the day along with Benjamin Moore, and we had like a mural painting party and there was a DJ, and we had a faux finisher give a painting demonstration using Benjamin Moore products. And so, you know,
and they made some sales on the day.
They sure did. Yeah. So thinking about creative ways to, you know, promote local businesses in the design build world, you know, thinking of ways to, you know, really bring the Hudson Valley makers to new and kind of creative, interesting markets that, you know, may not be intuitive, but, you know, using our organization as a platform to really promote these integrated fields. So we're super excited. And just to piggyback on Marilyn's statement before, I mean, it is an absolute delight to be partnering with Land Bank this year. And yeah, hopefully we can continue this partnership into the future.
Thanks, you guys.
I'm gonna go back on mute. But thank you guys.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think in past years, Marilyn mentioned you've distributed flyers to like the surrounding neighborhood, and if neighbors show up with their flyer, they have free admission to the
Yes.
show.
Yeah. So just because, if you can imagine, the designers are in the show house for an entire month. And we learned this very quickly in the very beginning, because we're in close-knit communities, people walk by, they want to know what's going on. So from the very beginning, we've done sort of put flyers in like a 3-4 block radius of where the show house is. And that gives the neighbors kind of free admittance to the show house every year. So we'll be doing that this year as well.
Great.
Daniel, this is Steve. Could I just ask a question / comment? It's really great that I think that we're able to partner together and to be able to demonstrate, the wide breadth of talent that we have in our community. And I think this is a great way to be able to also, increase the value of the next, land bank homeowner that has this house. I wonder if as part of this kind of extensive marketing campaign, there could be also a way to, incorporate a message about the work that the Kingston City Land Bank does, and to be able to encourage people to also donate to our new struggling nonprofit organization. I think that, if we're not around, opportunities and partnerships like this won't be able to exist in the future.
Yeah.
And so I just think that this could be a really great way for us to, increase our online giving, and to be able to increase our, the kind of the number of people that know in particular about the work that we're trying to do to make sure that we're not displacing people that live here in Kingston and have lived here their whole life that now can't afford to live here anymore. And so I just think that this could be, I think it's an important part of us to kind of see if we can do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep. And I can speak to a couple of things we're doing to that point. And first of all, you and I met very, very briefly, I think at like the Field and Supply dinner party back in 2019. I didn't know you were on the board, so I'm so excited to be reconnecting with you. But yeah, so a couple of things. So every year, we've always had a nonprofit that we've donated 100% of our proceeds to. And so, this year we're working with a nonprofit. And in fact, we actually just incorporated. So we're applying for 501c3 status ourselves. But one of the things that we've always done, and I've spoken to Daniel about this already, is in addition to kind of doing a good job of talking about what the partnership is and what the goals are, and Daniel provided some copy that we use in the press release that we're going to use, elsewhere. So we had that language that's been cleared by your organization. But in addition to that, I recently had a very interesting conversation with the new editor-in-chief of Elle Decor, who is interested in kind of those broader housing topical issues. So I am emailing him a couple of thoughts for articles, and I was going to send this to you, Daniel, because I just did a draft of it last night. And one of them is about sort of this unusual kind of show house mechanism, because show houses happen all over the country. And generally what they do is they work with a developer, they use the spec house, and then that house gets sold. And I think that what we're doing is a model that nobody's ever done. I think it's a very interesting model that not only provides kind of first-time homeownership opportunities in areas that are being impacted by gentrification, but also that we're providing high-end, good design to everyone, right? Because I think that's also really important. And so we're talking to him about that. And so, of course, that piece would be heavily, featured the Kingston City Land Bank, of course. And I think that, the other thing that Jennifer and I were talking about recently with our publicist, because we have a publicist that we engage, helps us with the show house every year, is, following the press release that we just did announcing the partnership, we're going to reach back out to the local newspapers and local media, because we do think this is a very interesting and important story of one way that, organizations can come together to really affect positive change.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, this, I think we will receive a lot of kind of media attention that we absolutely would not have otherwise as a result of this. And I think kind of particularly in the political climate that we're in, like this sort of thing is really, really appealing to publications that, you know, like an El Decor that like are looking for things that have more of a social benefit, community benefit, that sort of stuff. So, and then I think it should not be understated the value that we're receiving just in terms of saving our own money and being able to put it into Franklin Street and Greenkill, that, you know, the show house, I think conservatively is providing about, I don't know, $40,000 to $60,000 worth of work.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, you know, the design sponsors every year, right? And the level of materials, but last year it was easily above 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
Between,
So,
you know, the resources as well as the actual materials that were donated.
right. So, yeah, I mean, that's a huge donation in and of itself, but I think it will translate to more fundraising opportunities, and especially like as things come out in the media that we can also on our end promote as, you know, mentions here and there and everywhere. Like they're all good opportunities to remind people that we accept donations.
Yeah, and then the easiest thing, of course, you know, as I was saying before, is just to have that button, you know, a button from our site going to your site for donations, direct donations, a button from your site back to ours. That worked really well last year for Family of Woodstock, I think, in addition to the proceeds we're able to give to them.
Awesome. Anyone have more thoughts, questions, ideas? Well, Marilyn and Jennifer, thank you guys so much for joining us. You're more than welcome to stay on, but we also won't hold it against you.
Well, I'm sure you have like stuff that probably is not for everybody's ear, so we don't mind jumping off. But yes, but thank you guys again so much for giving us so much of your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And just so everyone knows, Mike sent around the physical portion of the presentation for everybody to peruse. You can also go to the Kingston Design Connection website. They're also on Instagram, I assume Facebook, sorry.
Yep. And it's all the same name, Kingston Design Connection. Yeah, on all the platforms.
Yeah, but thank you for working with us. This is absolutely not the easiest way to get this done for you or me, but
it's so worth it. We can't wait to get the keys from you.
We're on it.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Right. Well, Mike, do you have
Hey.
a report for us?
I do. I managed to pull one together this month. So I will just try to get to the highlights that weren't covered earlier in the meeting. But starting with the pre-development, as Daniel mentioned, the lawns are being mowed. We are working on actually a snow removal contract. So thank you, Erica, when she does show up or use this recording, for helping out with some ideas around that. Cleanouts are also underway, and thank you, Owen, for managing that process. We also are working to prepare an RFP for the Henry Street property, which we have not yet acquired, although the appraisal is done and that will be included in the RFP. The title work is done, just pending the deed being, some back and forth paperwork on the city side, and then Owen will be taking the lead on pulling that together. So thanks again, Owen, for priming the pump with what I'm sure will be possibly a bunch of Pathway 2 RFPs coming out. Phase 1, going back to the pilot, Greenkill and Franklin, the responsibilities matrix that we talked about last month is now in action, and we are relying on it as a tool for kind of internal processes. I like that sort of stuff. It's included in the board package if you're interested. It's definitely a living, working document, so it will probably change and evolve as we incorporate more parts of our work into it. For example, I know Erica wanted to try to incorporate some of her processes so people could see how things on the board level could see how things function a little better. And then I wanted to ask Owen, at this point, if you have anything that hasn't already been covered by anybody else about maybe the architecture progress or construction in general.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I just want to hit on some schedule notes that we were able to complete the RFP process with the architect and get the contract signed by the deadline that we had set out, and I feel like the architects are on board with our aggressive schedule to get this process complete and get a RFP out to a contractor by September 1st. So that's feeling really good. As far as construction that's underway, Van Buren, we have a contracted date of completion date or substantial completion date of July 30th, which is Friday, and are more or less on track for that. We're scheduling a punch list walkthrough right now, and that's not scheduled yet. So, but the overall is that project is wrapping up on time and should be have our punch list walkthrough shortly. Main Street and 174 Hasbrook, we have a contracted substantial completion of August 31st at this point. Hasbrook, we have just recently finalized and got everybody to sign the scope for finishing up with our current general contractor, and things are moving there again, and that project is refilling on track after a couple months of not feeling on track. So that's positive. That house, as everybody knows, is going to be completed by Kingston Design Connection once Meyer Contracting has done their scope. Main Street is, as Daniel said, moving along. That house we have a couple of known supply procurement delays that are not things that hold up other things, but are just things that we're monitoring and keeping track of. So, but still shooting for this August 31st substantial completion, except for hopefully a little odds and ends that happen after that. I also just want to mention that at this point, all of the properties that were purchased have either gotten their lawns mowed or clearing has started. Some of the properties are not mobile, are more like jungle style than lawn style. So some of those properties are like getting cleared bit by bit. And as Daniel mentioned, 63 German is going to get it in one fell swoop. So that's it. There's more to do about those properties, but at least they're getting attention and starting to, neighbors know we're paying attention to them. So that's it for me.
Okay, thanks a lot, Owen.
Yeah.
The only other item I would add on the construction side, just for awareness, is that we finished the as completed appraisals, which more flows into the sales side, but that allows us to set our enforcement mortgage, which is that document that allows us to ensure the affordability of the homes. So that's been completed for the 3 homes under construction. Jumping down to the sales side, I won't steal too much thunder from other groups, but it continues. We've gotten a substantial number of new qualified applications this month, and I'm sure others will dig more into that on the committee level. We've offered to conduct some walkthroughs of the homes with interested families to really get them, or interested purchasers, to get them over that last hump, to maybe just make it real and show people that it's something that they need to make a commitment on and be very aware of, but also that I think it makes it a little bit more tangible maybe than all the different other ways that we've been promoting the construction of the homes. And thank you to Daniel for a forthcoming video walkthrough of 64 Van Buren, which will be the first part of that process of just giving some, just increasingly more and more opportunities for people to see the inside of the homes now that we're almost done with that house. The August board meeting, just wanted to circle back on what I touched on last month to make sure that maybe I hadn't given enough detail on the process, but the applications that people have made, we finished our marketing and sales period on July 10th in order to give everyone kind of equal treatment or the same opportunity to finish their applications. We allow that process to continue until the end of this month. So end of July, application packages will be completed. And I'll be working with our sales partners to just review and make sure that the application packages are in order to present to the Acquisition Disposition Committee in August, and for the board to make their selections also in August. So that's my update on that. I know I probably walked through that maybe a little too quickly last month, but I just wanted to reiterate that that remains the process and the timeline to make selections. On the funding side, nothing more to mention on the Novo process other than what Daniel touched on, but I would say on the enterprise side, thank you to Erica for submitting the package for the Q2 requisition. That was a big process and we all worked together on it, but we did get that in. And for the stimulus funding letter that we expect to send to City Hall, that process will take place next month. So we've got some great partner groups like-minded in the housing sector, and we will be advocating to try to have a seat at the table for consideration for some of that funding. Then the last thing I would mention on the legacy, under the funding section, the Legacy Cities term sheet, as Daniel mentioned, trying to meet qualified BIPOC development firms. Probably it would not hurt us to put an RFQ on our website and just ask folks to come meet us and try to cast as wide of a net as possible. So I believe unless the connections that we've been trying to find come through before then, that we'll be putting something on our website just to try to cast a very wide net and meet as many people as possible. And then finally, under the other section, also in your board package is the ABO's guidance on board training. Aneshka, I'm sorry if I'm jumping on your thing, so I'll just, nope, okay. So it's in the board package. I'll stop talking about it. And then thank you to Erica for everything. I know she's not on the call, but the everything that we had to go through just to finalize our 990 and our audit. So that was it.
If I can just piggyback two things, because I don't think we talked about it really, but the board training thing. So the ABO training that we all had to do, it's good for 3 years. So if you're coming up on 3 years, I know Alana and I had the exact same reaction. We have to do it again. So I don't know, don't forget. We'll be reminding everybody toward the end of the year. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, as Mike was saying, cleanouts are starting, things like that. So, you know, I know I said this a lot, but anytime anybody wants to go in these houses, I honestly think it's an important kind of thing to do. Like, I think it makes this work feel real. It makes it feel as kind of emotionally charged as I think it is. And it's, I think, incumbent upon us to be familiar with kind of the conditions that we're walking into. So please, please, please don't hesitate to ask Mike or me or Owen or all of us, and we will figure out a time. But I think it's good to see before a lot of stuff starts happening. Okay. Committee reports, shall we? Bob.
Sure. But first, on the agenda, you talked about, as the board chair, the compensation committee task force. Do you want to talk about that later? Or you want to talk about that now?
Let's just get it done now. So yes, so we will be moving to executive session at the end of the meeting to talk about compensation specifically, but we decided the governance officer level to create a compensation committee. So I think I just asked for a vote. It's been a while since we created a committee, but essentially for a committee of the board to work together on compensation packages for consultants / potential in the future employees.
So I'll make a resolution propose a resolution for the creation of a compensation committee to gather, meet annually to discuss and agree upon compensation recommendations to be submitted to the board.
That was much better than how I put it. Thank you. Can I get a motion to create a compensation committee?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of creating a compensation committee? Oppose?
Can I don't know how, why, is there a reason? Like, is it just,
Well, so essentially, the bylaws don't really stipulate a process. They give the chair a lot of authority to, do this. Last year, we had a super rushed, weird process because we weren't expecting to bring Mike on as an independent consultant when we did. So most of that work fell to me and Bob because he was around and I needed help. So we want that to be a more transparent and inclusive process for this coming year and every year after that. And so I don't honestly know kind of the best way to go about it, but creating a committee where we could delineate an actual process and have it be, pretty official seemed like the best route. Is that helpful?
I think so. Yeah, okay, fine.
Oppose? Abstain? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. So at some point, we don't really have to do it tonight, but I need to appoint people to the committee. My suggestion is that because the officers of the board work the most closely with our consultants, that is probably a natural fit. We talked about it at the last officer call. We also discussed that Mr. Dennison has been sort of uniquely helpful with contracty type things. He has worked closely with us during the architect RFP, during other RFPs. So I'm suggesting that it's myself, Karen, Bartek, and Bob, and Aneshka has graciously sort of stepped aside for this one. She won't be on the board next year and we can't have 5 because then it's a quorum. So are folks okay with that as a premise? Okay, so I would like to, I guess, officially appoint to the compensation committee myself, Daniel Cantor, Karen Rue, Bob Dennison, and Bartek. I'm so sorry. Say it one more time.
Starday.
I'm gonna get it. So year 4. Okay. Great. We did it. So I think now we ask our lawyer to draft a charter for the committee and we can pass that next time or something. We have a little time to figure it out. Great. Okay, Bob. Now is it time?
Yeah, now it worked fine. That'll be good. I just wanted to add a couple of things about the architects. KDA was the one that we selected after interviewing and going through all this adventure of reviewing their qualifications. They're from Red Hook. They're local. They have local connections. They are a WBE certified business, and they are very enthusiastic. And so I'm very comfortable with us contracting with them. And I thought that the board should understand the whole picture in the the WBE piece as far as well as their local connections. So I think we did well. The proof will be in the pudding, but I think I'm confident that we did a pretty good job with selecting them. Our A&D committee meeting was abbreviated because it used my Zoom, which is only 40 minutes long, which is really kind of good. I recommend it. We really talked about two issues in particularly. One was to talk about how do we disposal plans for recently acquired properties and other properties that could be acquired, and evaluation of applicants to purchase renovated properties was the second part of the discussion. The application for the review of applications is going to be off until August because we have not received them all. They were still coming in, and they will be coming in until the end of July. So we're not going to be talking about selecting applicants for our process, our buildings until our August meeting. So that'll be very exciting. We're all looking forward to it, and we're nervous about it, of course. We talked about Post Street, which is a commercial property, which will not be housing, and what we should do about that. More to come as we go forward and learn more about the environmental issues surrounding that. The other one we talked about, one other one we talked about was Hamilton, which we have acquired, and it really doesn't. It's not a well-suited property for an affordable housing in renovation as we have been doing the others. And the committee talked about and I believe came to consensus that we should sell that property as a pathway 2 property. Just request some proposals, look at the proposals, and sell it to the one that will generate as much income and have the highest probability of success for renovating the property and getting it back on the tax rolls, which is another part of our charge. So I may be asking for a resolution, or maybe Daniel will, for the board's consensus about the board's approval to sell that property as a pathway 2. Doesn't mean we're going to do it next week, but we just wanted to have it in place so that we can develop what's necessary to sell that property to someone who will make it into, put it back in the tax rolls at a reasonable price. We also had a brief conversation about Abbey and Stefan. There's 2 properties out there that have clouded title. And we talked about the possibility of, we do not own them yet, but we talked about the possibility of acquiring them from the city and selling them for redevelopment to someone who is willing to take on the risk of a clouded title. We can't saddle that risk on someone who is a first-time home buyer for an affordable property, but there's a possibility that a developer or someone else might be interested in taking those properties and getting them back on the tax rolls. But we can't put the clouded title on somebody who is a new homeowner trying to get a mortgage. It just wouldn't work out, obviously. And that was the kind of the summary of our meeting. And I would ask for, if anybody's interested in making a resolution for us to move forward on the sale of Hamilton, that would be great. Any questions?
I think I would just add the caveat. It's not necessarily the case. I don't think that we would be seeking kind of best and highest bid. I think where ideally we can land is that there is still an affordability component. So I think with that property in particular, so in case you guys, it's I believe, under 600 square foot, teeny tiny, funny little house. It does not even have a bathroom. It has a toilet. It's very strange. So I sort of picture a younger, enterprising individual wanting to buy it and, do a little small house thing, in which case it's possible, maybe probable, that they do fall into a under X% AMI, and that we could figure out a way to still keep it income restricted, just probably not at the levels that we are currently serving with the pilot homes. So that's sort of one way to approach it. And the same, I think, is true of Stefan and Abby, just in the sense that, we and certainly try, and I think our board would likely accept a lower offer if there was some sort of aspect that made the property affordable. So for Abby, it's a 2-family house. Maybe the person can commit to renting one of the apartments affordably. Like, you know, I don't know quite what that looks like, but I do want to be clear that, like, I don't think we're approaching any of these pathway 2s right now as just straight, you know, highest bid sales.
Right. I agree. We're looking for the best proposal to dispose of the property. We're not looking for the highest income, highest return in dollars.
Revenue wouldn't hurt.
Right, right. Revenue is good.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the vote doesn't hurt, but, you know, I think Hamilton personally is a perfect candidate for a kind of first as is pathway to RFP, because there's no world in which it really makes sense for us to put any resources into it, just because it will house 1, maybe 2 people. So does anyone have feelings about that? I'm happy to vote on it. We're obviously not voting on a disposition, we're just the concept of it.
Daniel, do you need a motion to be able to kind of discuss it? So, I mean, I'm happy to move it forward for, you know, official discussion purposes.
Sure. Go for it.
I'll make that motion. So I think we need a second to get to the next step there.
I'll second that.
All in favor of opening discussion on 24 Hamilton?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion passes. Okay. So yeah, is there, I don't know. We've talked about this a lot at the acquisition disposition committee, so I feel like.
Is this like an official recommendation from the acquisition disposition committee for the board to consider and vote on?
Yes.
And
With
if I
the
understand,
caveat that we will obviously be reviewing the contents of the RFP, but also the final contract award and voting on that.
so the recommendation is that Hamilton Street House be sold as is, with or without an affordability covenant, or not covenant, but component to it.
You know, Karen, I would say the motion is that we move forward with accepting proposals on the Hamilton house.
Oh,
And the proposals might include, should include, you know, an affordability piece, or, you know, we don't know what the proposals will say. So I don't think we should be restrictive in that. When we do the RFP, we'll talk about how important that is to us, but it's just a matter of receiving proposals to examine. Am I right with that, Daniel? Do you think that's the concept?
Yeah, I think that is the concept, yes. I think we can't guarantee what comes our way. I think we as a board share the same interest in keeping things as affordable as possible, but it may not be, we just don't know what's gonna come.
What
And
is
it'd
the,
be nice to get some money.
That also is, yes, always nice.
what is the condition of the interior?
Bad. It is not unlike any of the rest of the houses. It's just smaller. There's mold, there's not insane amounts of mold, but it's damp. We have been unable to look at the basement because the stairs have collapsed. Like I said, there's currently no bathroom, so the house has a very strange little closet at the top of the stairs that contains a toilet.
The plumbing is all broken. The plumbing is all burst. The environmental guys did get into the basement through the front because you can't get in. Yeah, and it's not a pretty place either. It's a hurting piece of property, but it's a cute little house. I mean, somebody who has some imagination and some skills could really could make it into an interesting house.
So it's not so dilapidated that it's a tear down.
Daniel's never met a tear down.
No, I do not think it's a tear down. I think it seems like a fine little structure, but it sure is weird. So,
I mean, I think that the way, if I remember correctly, technically the only vote that the board needs to take is to actually dispose of a property. And so I really do think that the acquisition and disposition committee can go solicit offers and request for, you could put out an RFP as a committee, find who's out there, and then bring that back to the board. And I think at that point, if the board likes what they see, they could vote to dispose of it. If the board doesn't, they could vote to not dispose of it. But I think that, I don't know if our bylaws anyway are set up as a way that you need votes all along the way. So I don't know. That's my point of view. Because it may be hard for us to make a decision until we know kind of what's out there, for this type of property.
yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think, it's good for us to keep each other updated on sort of our current thinking around specific properties, but unless somebody has some radical idea of how we could use this thing, it is the recommendation of the committee that we commence creating an RFP and get it out there. Sound good? Cool.
Yeah. Part of it was the committee didn't want to surprise anybody.
Right. So I think, do we need a motion to end discussion? Can we move on? Okay. Bob, was there more? Or you done?
I think that's enough.
Okay. Fundraising, Karen, take it away.
I think someone else joined us. Is that Serena?
That's Erica, actually.
Oh, Erica. Hi, Erica. So for fundraising, Erica, our go-to person here, it seems, did order our subscription to GiveGab, and we are committee members going to be sort of doing some learning and how to best use that. And I also sent that to Bartek, since we're hoping that there'll be some crossover with marketing as well. We did spend our time at our meeting talking about the Kingston Design Connection event, or not event, but partnership. And Omari noted that their weekend of October 8th is also O positive. And we thought that might be a nice way if we could do some kind of, we've been talking about trying to do a fundraising event, something very low key that's not a huge investment, certain amount of staff time at that time, sorry, not staff time, consultant time at that time, but but something that would be sort of help us help more people get to know the land bank, and also some fundraising. So so we are sort of kicking around some ideas about what to do that weekend, possibly partnering with a local business or two. We also talked about how to, as Mayor Noble brought up earlier in this meeting and in talking with the Kingston Design peoples, thank you for bringing up the fundraising question. We did talk about, how to best take advantage of that. I think the message we've kind of gotten from them is that, they are extremely happy and willing to sort of raise the profile of the land bank and education, but they're not going to be involved directly in fundraising for the land bank. But that doesn't necessarily leave out that we can't use what they're doing to facilitate our fundraising. So we had talked about trying to have a meeting with fundraising and marketing and develop a little bit of a PR scheme, as just to how best to do that. And Mike, did you raise your hand? Oh, okay. So we are going to have a brainstorming session Wednesday with fundraising committee and Mike and Daniel to sort of talk about a long range fundraising plan for the next year. And so we might at that meeting sort of have some initial conversation about Kingston Design Connection and how to best utilize that that event. So that's where we are with that so far. And we talked a little bit about preparing the organizational budget, which I'll go over in the finance report. And then also that Novo has mentioned, Novo folks have mentioned that we do need to, focus on diversifying our funding sources. So over the next couple years, so which is why the fundraising committee was formed in part. So that's just something to keep on our radars. I think that's it for me for fundraising. Oh, another thing that as part of this sort of, I don't know if it's in marketing or part of this long range scheme, is to really sort of increase our Instagram fundraising game. So far, all of the donations that have come through Instagram have come from Daniel's personal account, from where he has been, sort of raising awareness of the land bank. So we need to figure out how to have more of that come from other sources, including our own account and maybe at least in this short term, the Kingston Design Connection. So, and just to one final item on the Kingston Design Connection is to also keep in mind that it's not just the 3 weekends that they are doing the showcasing. It's also that as Marilyn DeMoore referred to or mentioned, that they do follow up the event with multiple promotional materials throughout the year with different magazines and other postings on their own social media, that kind of thing. So also talking about how to keep that in mind for our own fundraising and profile raising as well. Any questions? Or Omari is not able to be here tonight. Aneshka, anything I left out that you can think of? And Aneshka is continuing to write our thank you notes for the donations that we are receiving until we get GiveGab all set up, and then we can be more selective with our handwritten thank you notes. Anything else? Okay.
All right, I'm gonna be annoying. You can predict what I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna say it. I just hope that we do not make the choice to align a huge amount of our public facing selves with like L decor, and I keep saying field and stream, field and supply, which is a completely unaffordable, like, this is a sort of a whole network of gentrified, like the forces that have gentrified Kingston and things that are not attainable to the vast majority of regular people here. And so, if we're going to do fundraising off the stuff, whatever, but I just want us to be wary of how much we're linking ourselves to some of these very not regular people, working class people, like just the what's the word? I can't think of the word right now, but the what it says.
The optics of it?
Optics, thank you. Yes.
No, I agree. It is a very fine line to be walking. But we can't, obviously we're not going to try and fundraise off the people that the organization is serving, the population that the organization is serving, other than, you know, like sale prices of the homes, you know, that kind of thing. So it is a fine line on how to appeal and get funding from individual fundraising, you know, from others who are not in the low to moderate income population that, you know, that the mission is to serve. So I think I get your point. And it is one, you know, why we're not just like wholesale blasting, you know, on social media and everything, you know, about this connection. I think it is one that will require a careful tone.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
You want to go right into finance?
Yeah, let's do it. So I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at the materials that came out in the board materials. Of course, I had mine open. Here we go. So on the profit and loss statement, you know, I think the one thing that will probably jump out, well, there are a couple, let's see, I made some notes here. One, the project expenses line, which is, you know, down toward the bottom, is pretty high, you know, at 266,000. A fair amount of that is because, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the Meyer contractors did not submit any requisitions for the previous month. So everything here is 2 months worth, plus they apparently had a lot of change orders. So that really did increase the expenses. And then you'll note right below there, our net operating income is a kind of alarming looking negative 311,000. But that figure does not take into consideration the income from enterprise that Erica mentions in the financial narratives, was for some reason sent to City Hall instead of wired in. So there was 126,000 there, plus Erica just submitted the second quarter claim. And then we were expecting a payment from Novo in July, mid-July, I believe that was going to come in. So, so we, you know, our next months should look a lot less alarming. Then just sort of down to the balance sheet. I don't think there's a whole lot there that other than the fixed assets, which is sort of close to the middle of the page. That number is increased, just reflecting, you know, the acquisition of property building, sort of pretty straightforward description of that we've acquired those additional properties. So that's why that is there. And I don't think I had too much more on these financial reports. Did anyone have any questions before I move on to something else? Great. The audit was completed and submitted to the authority's budget office. So Mike has included in this, you know, toward the end on page 37, there is a letter from the auditors that starts there, which essentially is just saying that everything was, you know, completed in that cash flows and changes in net assets were conducted in accordance with accepted accounting practices. So nothing was pulled out. And this is for years 2019 and 2020. And those financial statements are also at the very end of these report of this board package. So I think starting on page 44. So if you want to have a look at that, that'll be some extra reading for you. Any question on that before I move on to other items? So I just want to say thank you to the Finance and Audit Committee. Obviously, Omari is not here with us, but thank you, Mayor Noble. We've had a couple meetings this month. We did start on the budget. We're doing the budget for 2022 in kind of a multi-phase and discussing it with the board in a couple different phases. So thank you, Mike and Erica, for putting this together. The Finance and Audit Committee meeting did meet earlier today to go over the proposed 2022 budget sort of line by line. And we're not going to bring that to you, the whole budget to you today, just to sort of put a little bit on your, so that you're prepared for next time when we do, because it will be going out in the August materials. We are hoping to, hello? Okay. Go on.
No, I had a weird Zoom glitch where it wouldn't let me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, while I'm doing this, I'm not looking at all of you, so, okay. So just to sort of just to put on your radar, the budget is broken out very nicely into different sections. First being office expenses, of which we have no proposed changes so far. The personnel services, which does have a component for the consultants, and that is something we'll be discussing in more detail in the executive session. The way Novo, in order to be able to provide us funding for 2022, they have asked that our draft budget, along with draft operating budget, along with the amount of funding that we will need to cover consultants, be submitted to them by August 15th. And so we had wanted to talk in executive session about the consultants line in particular. And then following our meeting tonight, we'll insert that into the full budget and then review it one more time in the Finance Committee on August 13th, send it to Novo August 15th, and then August 20th, with the understanding with Novo that what they're seeing is a draft budget. It has not been board approved or reviewed, but we will then at the August 23rd meeting review the 2022 budget with the full board, and then any changes that are made or suggested or anything like that will then be forwarded to Novo following that. So it's sort of a little bit not in one linear, it's not linear, but will be ultimately, I think, will work well. So in terms of personnel services, can't sort of talk about changes there just yet because we'll be talking about that in the executive session. Property maintenance is going to be essentially double what it was last year. And that is really based on experience, in terms of what everything costs. And then development costs, which is the actual like purchase of properties. That's where there's actually the most significant change, and it's in a downward path from 800,000 projected for 2021 down to 300,000 projected for 2022. And a lot of that, the bulk of that is coming from that it's projected we'll do fewer of those sort of full rehabs going into 2022. And so there just won't be those, heavy expenses associated with that. So, and then we'll also just have our revenue. We're anticipating the bulk of our revenue will come from the sales of the proceeds from the pilot homes, the 5 pilot homes, as well as the Henry Street house and our Novo operating grant. And that's what's projected for right now. So I don't know if Mike or Daniel or Mayor Noble or Erica want to chime in on anything else that was reviewed that does conclude my report on the Finance Committee.
at least from my
Great
perspective,
job.
carried it all.
You did a really good job. I'm very
Thanks. I'm well prepared from a from a great committee. So I'm really just writing things down and reporting them back to you all.
Well, you did great. Yeah, I think the Cliff Notes is our draft at least is not radically different than last year, but we've learned some stuff and some of our circumstances have changed, especially owning a lot more property than we used to. So, so Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, the board will be voting on the budget in September's board meeting, is that right?
August is, oh, sorry, Mike.
Oh, sorry, we were going to say the same thing, I think, Barb. I think August.
August. Okay. Okay.
And that gives us time if we do need to come back to the board for, you know, if there are some significant issues that come up that need to be researched and resolved when the board sees it on August 23rd, that gives us time to return to the board in September and, you know, for a final approval.
Right. Because also, correct me if I'm wrong, but say we get the Legacy Cities grant, that might change things in terms of
Yes.
maybe what our other development costs look like. Or anyway, there's things in the air, so it's harder to pin down than it will be, I think, in a few months. Cool, thank you. Next, Bartek comes.
So we finished out our marketing period. We received in total about 250 applicants through our portal. And we've continued to receive them since July 12th, since July 10th. Those individuals will obviously go on a wait list for future properties. This month we discussed when we've made our selections, sending a survey out to all of the applicants that were considered by Hudson River Housing and RUPCO to get feedback on the process. So the timing of that would be September, and I think we all agree that would be pretty crucial for figuring out how we can improve the next marketing round. The only other development piece that I did want to point out is that we're finalizing a graphic that shows all of our different pathways for development. Currently, we're not really communicating those out to the public, and we're just about done with that, and that will be placed on our website probably in a few days. And that's all I got.
Short, brief, and to the point. Thank you. Any additions? Great.
Actually, the only thing that is sort of hanging in the air for the comms committee is outreach to the public, and that's where we hope that the pathways graphic will possibly be a way to educate people about how all of this works, or how people can actually become part of, or acquire one of these houses. So that's something that remains sort of hanging, but I think it's probably one of the most important things that we need to do. We need to be more in touch with our public.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing effort that I believe will get easier as we have finished homes, and everybody loves a transformation. So cool. Would you like to give us the governance committee report?
Of course. So we had a meeting to discuss primarily the self-evaluations that were submitted over the last months or so. the meeting was mainly a discussion, an open discussion about that. We didn't really have an agenda besides that. And I'll read a summary that Bob was nice enough to supply so that everyone, and I've put these also in the governance meeting notes folder. So overall, respondents wanted to continue as board members, although of course Karen and I are not going to be continuing. The concerns were around primarily what is required of board members and how the organization itself has a relatively small staff for the amount of work that it is tasked with. So other than that, everyone expressed excitement about the pilot houses, and we're all looking forward to selling them. The primary request was for more formal documented processes and more internal board communication, which we know is a recurring theme. And then the biggest recurring theme was that we're all very concerned about the financial condition of the organization. And obviously we are all in the process of doing something about that. This is kind of the most precarious kind of position that we are in. And so really the sale of these first three houses is going to be important, although we know that we're not going to make any money with them, but it will be a good platform from which to also raise funds, because we're always being asked what our track record is, and then we'll also have a track record. So these are sort of like cart before the horse kind of things that I think may, be frustrating as a board member, but it's the process of a new organization and getting some traction in this very complex scene. So that's basically all that I have. I want to also remind you, Daniel, that we need to vote on the amended the bylaws amendment. I just want to remind you that, and I hope everyone's read them, besides the article that discusses the process of signing contracts, there were other small changes that were very good changes. Thank you, Daniel, for combing the bylaws once again and straightening out the curls, because these bylaws are obviously a living document, but if anyone sees things that are glaring that need to be straightened up, please notify me, and we shall, continue to amend the bylaws. But to that end, I would like to bring a motion to the floor to vote on the amended bylaws.
Could I make that motion to move
Definitely.
the bylaws forward?
Great. Do I hear a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second it.
Thank you.
All in favor of enacting our bylaws amendment introduced in June? Opposed?
Aye.
That was unanimous. But it definitely passed. Thanks, everybody. Bartek, do you have what you need for the record?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Cool. Look at us. Okay. I think that's good. I mean, I would just want to say, pursuant to what Aneshka just said, it is definitely a challenge, continues to be, has always been just sort of keeping everybody in the loop and finding the best way to make sure that information is available as we want to see it. And, you know, I certainly don't have the answers here. So if anybody has ideas, like, don't be shy, because I think this is really hard. There's a lot of moving parts in this. Mike has 1 million things in his brain constantly. And so, yeah, I want to do better as chair of making sure that people have that stuff available to them. So always open to hear suggestions or obviously specific requests. I will do my best to accommodate. With that, I think we still have no members of the public, so I think we can skip the comment period, which means it's time for executive session. So I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss 2022 compensation for personnel.
I'll make that motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel. Daniel, is there anyone that you would want to have invited in to that meeting at this point other than board members?
I think just board members. I believe Erica is on standby if we have specific financial questions. Erica, is it okay if I call or text? I need you to jump on.
Absolutely. I was just about to text you. Just text me when you, if you want me to call back in.
Okay. I think Mike has to make me the host. So we will go into executive session. We will vote to leave executive session. Then we will go back to the regular meeting that will be recorded. Mike, do I call you to tell you we're done?
That would be appreciated. I will pause the recording now, and then I will make you the host. And then when you call me back, when I log back in, I start the recording again. I think that's how it will work.
Sounds good. I think I still need an actual vote for this though. So Steve introduced a motion. I need a second. All in favor of moving to executive session? Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. We will move to executive session now. Thank you. Okay. Great. Now we need a motion to leave executive session and resume the public portion of our board meeting.
I'll make a motion to leave the executive session and resume the public portion of our meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Welcome back to the public. Do we have any new business? Okay then. Thank you, everybody. I guess just need a motion to adjourn and then we can all go to bed.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor of adjournment? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
All right.
Sleep tight.
You.
Good night.